The message arrived on a cold morning in Geneva. Every screen on Earth flickered simultaneously as the Galactic Empire's transmission carved through every broadcast, every device, every piece of technology humanity possessed. The face that appeared was not human. Ambassador Thelkar of the Vryn Dominion stared down at Earth with four cold, unblinking eyes. "People of Earth," the ambassador began, his voice carrying the weight of 1,000 conquered worlds. "Your planet has been evaluated. Your species has been measured. The Galactic Council has reached its conclusion. In living rooms, offices, and command centers across the globe, humanity held its breath. You are primitive. Your weapons are outdated. Your ships barely leave your own star system. Yet you resist the natural order. You refuse to bend your knee to the empire that has brought peace to 10,000 worlds." Thelkar's mandibles clicked with what might have been amusement. "This ends now. You have 72 hours to surrender your governments, your military assets, and your independence. Refuse, and we will demonstrate why 500 species have learned to obey." The transmission ended. Silence fell across Earth like snow. In the United Earth Defense Council's headquarters, buried deep beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Chen Wei stood before a wall of screens showing reactions from every nation. Panic in some cities, defiance in others, fear everywhere. "They think we're helpless," said General Okonkwo, her hands gripping the edge of the conference table. "They think we're children playing with toys." Admiral Chen allowed himself a thin smile. "Good, Admiral." President Martinez leaned forward. "This is no time for games. They have battle cruisers that could glass our cities from orbit. They have technology we've studied for decades and barely understand. Our surface fleet." She paused, choosing her words carefully. "Our surface fleet would last minutes against them." "Our surface fleet," Chen repeated, his smile widening slightly. "Yes, that fleet would fall quickly, which is precisely what we want them to believe." He pressed a button on his console. The screen shifted, showing an image that made several council members gasp. It was darkness at first, the deep black between planets where no light reached. Then the image adjusted, enhanced, and there they were. Ships, hundreds of them, thousands of them. They hung in the void like sleeping dragons, their hulls darker than space itself. No running lights, no heat signatures, no electromagnetic emissions. They were ghosts in the machine of the universe, invisible to every scanner the Empire possessed. "Project Black Armada," Chen said quietly. 30 years in the making. While they watched our primitive vessels struggle to reach Mars, while they laughed at our chemical rockets and fusion drives, we were building something else, something they never suspected. "How?" President Martinez whispered. "The resources alone. Every nation contributed," General Okonkwo answered. "Every secret manufacturing facility on the dark side of the moon. Every mining operation in the asteroid belt. Every failed space mission that actually deployed construction platforms in the outer system. We built this fleet in the places they never looked, using technology they didn't know we had." The screen cycled through images, sleek destroyers with hulls that bent light around them, carriers that could launch attack wings without ever being detected, battleships armed with weapons that humanity had reverse-engineered from crashed alien vessels and improved upon. And at the center, the crown jewel, the UES Defiance, a dreadnought 3 kilometers long, bristling with humanity's anger at being called primitive. "The Empire thinks we're scared," Chen continued. "They think we'll negotiate, delay, beg for mercy. They don't understand humans very well, do they?" President Martinez studied the fleet. The fear in her eyes had transformed into something harder, something fiercer. "When the 72 hours are up, we send them our answer," Chen said. But not with words. Across Earth, the population watched their leaders' addresses. They heard the calls for calm, the assurances that humanity would not go quietly into subjugation. They saw the defiance in their representatives' eyes and found their own courage rising to match it. In orbit above Earth, the Empire's reconnaissance ships maintained their watch, counting humanity's pathetic surface vessels, measuring the primitive defense satellites, calculating the time it would take to crush this upstart species. They reported back to the main fleet. Earth was defenseless. This would be simple. The clock ticked down. 72 hours became 48, then 24. The Empire's war fleet began its approach, a armada of gleaming vessels that had broken the will of countless civilizations. Admiral Corvin of the Imperial Fleet studied Earth from his command throne, contempt clear in his expression. "Such a beautiful world," he mused. It will make an excellent colony once we remove the infestation. Prepare weapons. When they refuse our generous offer, show them what happens to worlds that defy the Empire. His officers worked their stations, weapons charging, troops preparing for ground assault. They had done this hundreds of times before. It was routine. Behind them, in the darkness between Jupiter and Saturn, the Black Armada stirred. Admiral Chen stood on the bridge of the Defiance, surrounded by men and women who had trained their entire careers for this moment. Before them, holographic displays showed the Empire's fleet approaching Earth in perfect formation, arrogant in their certainty of victory. All ships. Chen's voice went out across encrypted channels to every vessel in the Black Armada. It's time to answer. The countdown reached 0. The Empire's warfleet emerged from faster-than-light travel in perfect formation. 300 vessels, each one a monument to the Vryn Dominion's 1,000-year reign over the galaxy. They arranged themselves in a crescent pattern that had broken the spirit of 500 worlds. Their weapons aimed at the small blue planet below. Admiral Korvan stood on the bridge of the Imperial flagship Eternal Throne, watching Earth rotate peacefully beneath him. His tactical officers reported the expected findings. Humanity's pathetic surface fleet scrambling to form a defensive line, their primitive satellites attempting to track the Imperial vessels, their communications channels flooded with panic and desperate calls for mercy. The 72 hours have expired, Korvan announced. Has Earth transmitted their surrender? No, Admiral, his communications officer replied. They have sent only silence. Korvan's mandibles clicked in irritation. Then we proceed with demonstration protocol. Target their largest city centers. Prepare to fire on my command. We will show them the cost of... Every screen on his bridge went dark. Report, Korvan barked. Systems failure across all networks, his chief technician stammered. No, wait. Not failure. Something is blocking our sensors. All of them, simultaneously. Impossible. The humans don't have that technology. Admiral, the communications officer interrupted, his voice tight with something Korvan had never heard from a Vryn warrior before. Fear. We're receiving a transmission. From Earth. Put it through. Admiral Chen's face appeared on every screen in the Imperial fleet. He wore no ceremonial uniform, no decorations meant to intimidate, just a simple naval jacket and an expression of absolute calm. Admiral Korvan, Chen said as if greeting an old colleague, you gave us 72 hours to surrender. We appreciate the courtesy. We use that time well. Korvan's eyes narrowed. Your defiance is noted, human. It will be remembered as your species' final mistake. You misunderstand, Chen replied. We're not defying you. We're teaching you. Teaching? Korvan laughed, a harsh sound that echoed through his bridge. What could primitives possibly teach the Empire? Chen's expression didn't change. We're going to teach you what happens when you threaten Earth. He nodded once and the transmission ended. For 3 seconds, nothing happened. Korvan opened his mouth to order the attack. The words never left his throat. The darkness came alive. All around the Imperial fleet, space itself seemed to ripple and tear. The Black Armada decloaked as one, their stealth fields dropping simultaneously to reveal the terrible truth that humanity had kept hidden for 3 decades. They had been there all along, surrounding the Empire's forces in a sphere of silent death. Korvan stared at the tactical display as red icons flooded the screen. Hundreds of them, thousands of them, human vessels that shouldn't exist, armed with weapons that primitive Earth wasn't supposed to possess, arranged in attack formations that demonstrated a tactical sophistication the Empire had never credited them with. How? He whispered. The human ships answered. The Battle of Earth's sky lasted 14 minutes. The Empire's forces, caught in the center of a perfect sphere with nowhere to run, fought with the desperation of beings who suddenly understood their mortality. They fired everything they had, their plasma cannons and quantum torpedoes tearing through space toward the human fleet. But humanity had learned from every engagement they had ever studied. Every battle the Empire had fought, every tactic they had used against other species had been analyzed, dissected, and countered. The Black Armada moved like a school of predatory fish, each ship supporting the others, creating overlapping fields of fire that turned the empty space around Earth into a killing ground. The UES Defiance led the assault, its main weapons carving through Imperial shields with terrifying precision. Human fighters poured from carrier bays, their pilots executing maneuvers that G-forces should have made impossible. Destroyer wings targeted the Empire's command ships with coordinated strikes that spoke of countless hours of training in the darkness, where no one could see them prepare. On the Eternal Throne's bridge, alarms screamed as systems failed one by one. Corvin watched his fleet die with the growing realization that he had led them into a trap. Not a military trap, a trap of arrogance. The Empire had been so certain of humanity's weakness that they never questioned it. They never wondered why such a proud species had such primitive, visible defenses. They never asked what Earth might be hiding. All ships, Corvin commanded, his voice steady despite the chaos around him. Retreat pattern Delta, fall back to... An explosion ripped through his flagship's port side. The lights flickered. The artificial gravity failed for 3 terrible seconds before emergency systems kicked in. "Admiral," his tactical officer shouted over the noise. "They're not letting us retreat. Every escape vector is blocked." Corvin understood then. This wasn't just a battle. It was a message. Humanity wanted survivors. They wanted someone to return to the Empire and tell them what happened here. "All ships," he said quietly, "surrender. Transmit our yielding codes on all frequencies." The firing stopped. In the sudden silence of space, the Imperial fleet hung broken and beaten, surrounded by the dark shapes of humanity's hidden strength. Of 300 vessels, barely 50 remained functional. The rest drifted as debris, monuments to the Empire's fatal underestimation. Chen's face appeared again on Corvin's screens. "You will return to your Empire," the human admiral said. "You will tell them exactly what happened here. You will tell them that Earth does not kneel. Not to you, not to anyone. And you will tell them that if they send another fleet, we will be waiting." Corvin met the human's eyes. In them he saw something that made his blood run cold. Not hatred, not rage, just absolute unshakable certainty. "They won't believe me," Corvin said. "Then they'll learn the same lesson you did," Chen replied. "The hard way." The transmission ended. The surviving Imperial ships, their weapons disabled and their pride shattered, began the long journey home under human escort to the edge of the solar system. Behind them, Earth hung peaceful and blue, defended by a fleet that the galaxy had never imagined existed. The Black Armada held position, waiting, watching, and across the Empire, in the hours that followed, something began to stir. Other species, other worlds that had bent their knees and surrendered their freedom, heard whispers of what happened at Earth. They heard that someone had finally said no. Someone had fought back. Someone had won. The news spread like wildfire across 10,000 worlds. At first, the Galactic Empire tried to suppress it. They censored reports, blocked transmissions, executed those who spoke of Earth's impossible victory. But you cannot silence truth when it burns bright enough. The surviving crew of Admiral Corvin's fleet told their families. Those families whispered to neighbors. Those whispers became shouts that echoed across planets that had forgotten what defiance looked like. Earth stood against the Empire. Humanity refused to kneel. The humans won. 3 simple statements that changed everything. In the capital city of Rin Prime, the Galactic Council convened an emergency session. The chamber, a massive dome that could hold representatives from 500 species, buzzed with unprecedented discord. The usual order had fractured. Species that hadn't raised their voices in centuries now demanded answers. How? Ambassador Thelkar faced the council, his 4 eyes darting nervously. "How did primitives defeat our finest fleet? This violates every assessment, every calculation. They were supposed to be weak." "Perhaps," said Representative Kelsa of the Taurian Collective, her crystalline form shimmering with barely contained emotion, "we saw what we wanted to see. Perhaps humanity understood something we forgot long ago." "And what is that?" Thelkar snapped. "That strength isn't given by empires. It's forged in the fires of those who refuse to surrender their freedom." A murmur of agreement rippled through the chamber. The representatives of the Vrin Dominion shifted uncomfortably. For the first time in a millennium, they felt something unfamiliar: doubt. On Earth, Admiral Chen stood in the same command center where he had revealed the Black Armada. But now the screen showed something different. Messages were flooding in from across the galaxy. Not threats, not demands, but something humanity had never expected to receive from alien civilizations. Requests for help. "Admiral, President Martinez said, studying the incoming transmissions. The Taurian Collective is asking for military advisors. The Kelthran Republic wants to know how we built undetectable ships. The Solarian Federation is requesting an alliance. She looked up, wonder in her eyes. 23 species have reached out in the last 6 hours. They're asking us to teach them how to resist. General Okonkwo pulled up a star map. Red dots marked Imperial territories. But now scattered throughout that sea of red, small blue dots were appearing. Worlds in rebellion, species that had been conquered generations ago, now remembering what it meant to fight for themselves. We've started something, Okonkwo said quietly. They're rising up because we showed them it was possible. Chen nodded slowly. Then we have a responsibility. We fought for our freedom. Now we help them fight for theirs. The Empire won't allow it, Martinez warned. They'll come at us with everything they have. Good, Chen replied, a fierce smile crossing his face. Let them come. We'll be ready, and this time we won't be alone. Across the galaxy, the resistance began. On Kelthros Prime, workers in Imperial munitions factories suddenly discovered manufacturing defects in every weapon they produced. On Toran, entire communication networks went dark, cutting off Imperial administrators from their fleets. On 100 worlds, subtle acts of sabotage bloomed into open rebellion. And always, the message was the same. If Earth can stand, so can we. The Empire responded with the only language it knew, overwhelming force. They dispatched punishment fleets to a dozen rebellious worlds, intending to make examples that would terrify the galaxy back into submission. But something had changed. The fear that had kept 500 species obedient for 1,000 years had cracked. And through that crack, hope poured like light into darkness. When the Imperial fleet arrived at Toran, they found human ships already there. Not the Black Armada itself, but training vessels, advisors, weapons specialists. Earth had kept its promise. The Taurians fought with human tactics, human determination, and their own desperate courage. The Imperial fleet withdrew in disarray. News of the Taurian victory spread even faster than Earth's had. In the command center beneath the Swiss Alps, Admiral Chen watched the galaxy transform. The red on the star map was shrinking. Not quickly, the Empire still commanded immense power, but steadily, inexorably. Species that had forgotten their own strength were remembering. Worlds that had accepted chains were breaking them. Admiral, a young communications officer called out. Incoming transmission. It's from Admiral Korvan. Chen raised an eyebrow. Put it through. The Vryn Admiral appeared on screen. He looked older than he had during their last conversation, his eyes carrying a weight that transcended military defeat. Admiral Chen, Korvan said formally. I bring a message from the Galactic Council. I'm listening. They want to negotiate. Not surrender, Korvan added quickly. The Empire doesn't know how to surrender. But they want to discuss restructuring. They're calling it the Great Reformation, self-governance for member worlds, dissolution of forced tribute, the end of military occupation, and in exchange, peace, trade, cooperation instead of conquest. Korvan paused. You've broken something, Admiral Chen. The Empire as it was cannot continue. Too many worlds have remembered what you showed them. Too many species are willing to fight now. We can crush some of them, perhaps. But all of them? While Earth's Black Armada waits to strike at any fleet we commit. He shook his head. The mathematics of Empire no longer work in our favor. Chen studied the alien admiral. You understand this isn't just about Earth's military power? I do, Korvan replied. It's about what you represent. Hope. Defiance. The idea that a species can determine its own fate. His mandibles clicked softly. You've given the galaxy something more dangerous than any weapon. Belief in themselves. Then the Empire has a choice, Chen said. Adapt to a galaxy of free peoples or fall trying to hold on to the past. The Council meets in 3 days to vote on the Reformation, Korvan said. They've requested that Earth send a delegation. Not as subjects. As equals. After the transmission ended, silence filled the command center. Then President Martinez began to laugh, a sound of pure, joyful disbelief. They're asking us to help them change, she said. The Empire that wanted to conquer us is asking us to teach them how to let go. Because we showed them there's no other choice, General Okonkwo added. We didn't just win a battle. We changed what's possible. Admiral Chen walked to the window overlooking the command center, watching men and women from every nation of Earth working together, united by their shared triumph. Beyond them, he knew, the Black Armada waited in the darkness between worlds, no longer hidden but still watchful. The Vryn Empire demanded our surrender, he said quietly. They wanted us to kneel. Instead, we showed the galaxy how to stand. He turned back to his team, his eyes bright with the reflection of 1,000 distant stars. Now we help them build something better, not an empire, a community, not subjects and masters, partners. And if anyone threatens that, if anyone tries to drag the galaxy back into darkness, they'll find Earth standing ready. Along with every world we've helped set free. Outside, across the blue jewel of Earth, humanity looked up at the stars with new understanding. They were no longer alone, no longer primitive, no longer afraid. They had answered the galaxy's ultimatum with fire and courage, and in doing so, they had lit a beacon that would burn for 1,000 generations. The age of empires was ending. The age of humanity, and all who chose freedom, was just beginning.